Have you ever imagined how a simple act of kindness can change not just one day, but entire lives? Today, I'm going to share with you an extraordinary story that took place at an altitude of 10,000 meters, where a young boy of just 8 years old and a living legend of cinema starred in a moment that no one could have predicted. This isn't just another celebrity story. It's a powerful lesson in how small gestures can unleash a revolution of kindness that continues to resonate to this day. Before we dive into this incredible journey, I want you to be part of this chain of transformation. Activate the bell and subscribe to the channel, because at the end of this video, you'll discover how a simple gesture between Baron Trump and Clint Eastwood generated a global movement of kindness that can inspire your own story of transformation. Don't miss a second, because every moment of this narrative carries a valuable lesson that can change your perspective on the power of small actions. Get ready for a story that will touch your heart and perhaps awaken in you the desire to make a difference in the world. And remember, your like is the first step in spreading this message of hope to thousands of other people. A slight buzz ran through the cabin when the legendary Clint Eastwood appeared in the first-class aisle. Passengers leaned back in their seats, whispering to each other in admiration. Baron Trump looked up from the in-flight menu, his curiosity evident at the sight of the movie icon. Even carrying the weight of his 90 years, Eastwood maintained that magnetic charisma that had made him a living Hollywood legend. His weathered face emanated a quiet wisdom, while his serene presence commanded natural respect without the need for grand words or gestures. The situation took an unexpected turn when Eastwood's assistant began a tense conversation with the flight attendant. A booking error had left the veteran actor without his seat in first class. Baron watched the scene carefully, noticing a subtle weariness in the legendary director's eyes. Without a second's hesitation, the young Trump rose from his comfortable window seat. He approached Eastwood with surprising maturity for his 8 years, and in a firm but respectful voice said, "Mr. Eastwood, please take my seat." "I'd like that." The veteran actor showed genuine surprise, his deep but friendly voice questioning, "Are you sure, boy?" But Baron's mind was made up. A spontaneous gesture that none of those present could have imagined would set off a series of extraordinary events. Clint Eastwood settled into the spacious first-class seat with visible relief. Despite his characteristically hard expression, his eyes revealed deep gratitude. "You didn't have to do that, kid," he murmured softly in that tone of voice that millions of film buffs would instantly recognize. Baron, for his part, was now facing a very different reality. As he walked down the narrow aisle of economy class, he felt the curious stares of passengers who recognized the president's son. His new seat was squeezed between two challenging situations. On the one hand, a salesman who couldn't stop talking about his professional achievements, gesticulating energetically with every word. On the other, a child who sobbed incessantly, apparently inconsolable about his first plane trip. The contrast with the comfort she had just left was stark. The small space barely accommodated his legs, and the air conditioning blew directly into his face. Even so, Baron maintained the same elegant posture he had shown when making his initial offer. Without showing any sign of regret or discomfort, he calmly removed his headphones from his pocket. Adjusting to the new reality, he discreetly observed his fellow travelers. The salesman was now talking on the phone, planning his next meeting out loud, while the child was slowly finding solace in his mother's arms. Baron put on his headphones, closed his eyes, and let a slight smile appear on his face, satisfied with his decision, even amid the apparent chaos of economy class. Suddenly, the plane was shaken by severe turbulence. The lights flashed and the fasten seatbelt sign came on as the aircraft shook violently. Drinks spilled over the seats, suitcases fell out of the overhead compartments, and panicked screams echoed through the cabin. In economy class, Baron clung tightly to the arms of the seat. His heart raced, but he kept his breathing under control, even when the child next to him began to cry even louder. The salesman, once so talkative, now cringed in silence, his fingers white from squeezing the armrest. In first class, Clint Eastwood held on tightly to his seat, his face marked by age, maintaining its characteristic serenity, although his eyes showed concern. The rocking was more intense than any turbulence he had ever experienced on his countless journeys. A frightening pop echoed through the fuselage as the plane suddenly lost altitude. The captain announced over the PA system that they had encountered an area of unforeseen instability. For a few seconds, that seemed like eternity. The lives of everyone on board seemed to hang in the air as the aircraft struggled against the invisible forces of nature. When the plane finally stabilized, a collective relief overtook the passengers. Some prayed in silence. Others let out long sighs of relief. Clint, contrary to the crew's instructions, got up from his seat. There was something about that young man that showed such kindness that made him want to make sure he was all right. Amid the constant roar of the engines and the curious glances of the other passengers, Clint Eastwood and Baron established a unique connection. "Why did you give up your seat?" asked Clint, his eyes showing genuine curiosity. Baron replied with surprising simplicity. "It seemed like the right thing to do. I grew up watching your movies, seeing how you inspired so many people. I thought a simple gesture might give a little back." The veteran actor let out a low laugh, his age-stained voice carrying decades of experience. "I never imagined that a seat could mean so much." Baron returned the smile. "It's not the seat, it's the intention behind it." The conversation flowed naturally, touching on deep themes that transcended their age difference. Baron opened his heart about the challenges of growing up in the spotlight, his burning desire to build his own identity beyond the Trump surname. Eastwood, for his part, shared stories from his youth, talking about the mistakes and achievements that shaped his journey in Hollywood. The surrounding passengers watched this unusual scene with a mixture of delight and emotion. An icon of American cinema and an 8-year-old boy immersed in a conversation that seemed to erase any barrier of age or status. It was as if the rest of the world had disappeared, leaving just two souls sharing wisdom and dreams at an altitude of 10,000 meters. News of the meeting between the young Trump and the movie legend spread like wildfire through dry straw. Even before the plane touched the ground, social networks were buzzing with reports from passengers who witnessed the unusual scene of Clint Eastwood sitting in economy class, chatting with Baron as if they were old friends. In the arrivals hall, a crowd of journalists, photographers, and curious onlookers gathered, their flashes lighting up the aisle like shooting stars. Eastwood, with his decades of experience dealing with the media, instinctively positioned himself in front of Baron, using his own body as a shield against the avalanche of questions and cameras. "No statements today, folks," said Eastwood, in his characteristic deep voice, as he guided Baron through the sea of reporters. The young man, maintaining the same composure he had shown during the flight, walked in silence, protected by the imposing presence of the veteran actor. Over the next few hours, headlines began to appear on all the news channels. The story of the impromptu meeting at 10,000 meters captured the public's imagination in a way that no one could have predicted. It wasn't just another celebrity story. It was an account of kindness, respect, and human connections that transcended generations. On social media, hashtags related to the meeting became a worldwide trend. People shared their own stories of kindness, inspired by Baron's spontaneous gesture. What began as a simple act of politeness had become a cultural phenomenon, touching hearts and inspiring similar actions around the world. A few days after the memorable flight, Baron's phone rang with an unknown number. "Baron, this is Clint. Do you have a minute to talk?" The husky, familiar voice on the other end of the line made the young man instantly straighten up in his chair. The veteran actor and director had an unexpected proposal: to create a movie about empathy and the power of small actions that change lives. A week later, Baron visited Clint's studio for the first time. The room was full of scripts and notes, scattered all over the tables, revealing the intense creative process already underway. Eastwood, completely immersed in the project, made a point of putting the young man at ease, treating him not like a child, but like a true collaborator. "How did you come up with the idea of giving up your seat that day?" asked Clint, leaning over his notes. Baron reflected for a moment before answering. "I've always believed that small attitudes matter. My parents, each in their own way, did great things in the world, but I think kindness starts with simple gestures." As they talked, a plot naturally began to take shape. It wouldn't be just another Hollywood movie, but an interwoven narrative about how small acts of kindness can trigger profound transformations. Clint brought his decades of experience and classic eye to directing, while Baron contributed a fresh and sincere perspective on compassion and kindness. The unusual collaboration between the veteran director and the young visionary intrigued everyone behind the scenes. Baron, even with no filmmaking experience, showed a natural understanding of the emotional impact of stories. His suggestions on how to portray moments of spontaneous kindness helped shape scenes that touched the audience's heart in an authentic and profound way. The power of a gesture began to come to life in the studios, with Clint immersed in piles of scripts and notes. The movie was structured around several interconnected plots, where small acts of kindness triggered profound transformations in people's lives. One of the most striking scenes, clearly inspired by the original encounter, showed an elderly man giving his last comfort to a crying child. This scene became the catalyst for a series of changes that affected an entire community. During its recording, Clint couldn't contain his emotion. "This is all only possible because you reminded me that heroism often lives in the details." On the night of the premiere, the theater was packed with celebrities, journalists, and fans of all ages, eager to witness the legendary director's new project. When the lights went down and the movie began, the audience was enveloped by a narrative that intertwined stories of generosity, loss, overcoming, and reunion. In the final moments of the screening, many spectators wept silently, touched by the film's universal message. When the credits began to roll, a thunderous ovation filled the theater. Clint, in a meaningful gesture, called Baron to the stage and declared, "This boy is the reason everything happened. He reminded me that stories aren't just entertainment, they can change lives." The film transcended conventional Hollywood expectations, becoming not only a box office success, but a catalyst for social change. The fusion of Eastwood's masterful direction and Baron's heartfelt perspective created something unique, a work that not only entertained, but inspired people to be better to each other. The premiere of The Power of a Gesture at the city's largest movie theater was just the beginning of something much bigger. As the credits rolled for the first time, no one could have imagined that this story, born out of an encounter at 10,000 meters above sea level, would become a catalyst for profound social change. In the first week after the premiere, social networks were flooded with moving accounts. A lady in Minnesota secretly paid for dental treatment for a young mother she met in the waiting room. A Wall Street executive, inspired by the movie's message, set up an anonymous fund to help students in financial difficulty. A group of teenagers began visiting nursing homes at weekends, bringing music and companionship to the elderly. The movement grew organically. Clint and Baron were surprised when they discovered online discussion groups dedicated to sharing everyday gestures of kindness inspired by the movie. In Seattle, an elementary school teacher implemented the Kindness Minute in her classroom, where children shared small acts of kindness they had witnessed or performed. Letters of reconciliation began to circulate between families long separated by disagreements. A man in Portland mustered the courage to write to his father after 15 years of silence. A sister in Chicago finally forgave the family betrayal that had kept her apart for decades. The movie had touched something deep in people's hearts: the need for connection and forgiveness. In hospitals, the Kindness Project emerged, where volunteers took turns keeping lonely patients company. Companies began to implement corporate kindness policies, encouraging employees to dedicate a few hours a month to social projects. Even prisons adopted programs based on the film's message, promoting rehabilitation through acts of community service. The most surprising impact came from schools. Teachers reported significant changes in student behavior after screenings of the film. Bullying decreased, empathy increased, and small gestures of kindness became part of everyday school life. A silent revolution was underway, proving that Barron and Clint's message had transcended the silver screen to touch real life in profound and lasting ways. The impact of the power of a gesture exceeded all expectations in the film industry. Clint and Barron began to receive invitations from educational institutions around the world. Schools implemented programs inspired by the film, where students were encouraged to document their own daily acts of kindness. Large corporations began to transform their organizational cultures. Multinational companies created Kindness Day, where employees were encouraged to carry out positive actions in their communities. Mentoring programs sprang up, connecting experienced executives with young professionals, replicating the unique dynamic that Barron and Clint had established. In a particularly poignant event, Barron was invited to speak at a global conference on social change. In front of a diverse audience, he shared how a simple gesture on an airplane had turned into a worldwide movement. His speech was moving when he revealed, "Today I understand that it's not just a choice to be kind, it's a kind of responsibility. If everyone does something small, we can change the whole scenario around us." The movement gained even more momentum when non-profit organizations began documenting the ripple effect of good deeds. A single kindness often triggered dozens of others, creating a chain reaction of positivity that spread throughout entire communities. Clint, observing the phenomenon they had created together, commented over lunch with Barron, "We need to keep spreading this." The answer came with conviction: "This story doesn't end here." And it really didn't. The legacy continued to grow, proving that kindness, when nurtured and celebrated, has the power to transform not just moments, but entire generations. A simple change of seats on an airplane turned into a revolution of kindness that continues to reverberate around the world. Barron Trump and Clint Eastwood showed us that we don't need grand gestures to change lives. Sometimes it all starts with the decision made in seconds, born from the heart. This extraordinary story teaches us that kindness has a multiplying power. Like waves on a pond, each small act of kindness expands, touching lives we can't even imagine reaching. Barron, at just 8 years old, and Clint, with his decades of wisdom, proved that age is just a number when it comes to inspiring positive change. If this story has touched your heart, you too can be part of this chain of transformation. Start today with a simple gesture. It could be a smile, a kind word, or a hand extended to someone in need. And don't forget to share this video with someone special, because every person who joins this movement of kindness makes our world a better place. Activate the bell, subscribe to the channel, and be part of this silent revolution of kindness. Together we can prove that the greatest miracles begin with the smallest gestures. After all, we never know when a simple act of kindness can change not just one day, but entire generations.